Hi everyone. Mike's work.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for coming out uptown for some literary discussion.
Yes, children literary discussion. Before we start, I just want to say how we know each other, how we met. Was it last week?
Yeah. I think it was 5 days ago.
Okay, so 5 days ago we were at the National Book Festival. Thanks. I waited for it.
Pause for applause.
Yeah, it was at the Library of Congress, and I only say that to sound very smart. And so it's a much different world than I'm used to, or maybe anyone's used to. But so we're there, and we're sort of walking around, and especially the first night. It was like this Friday night. It's their big event, and so there's all these people from Doris Kearns Goodwin is there, who's now a friend.
You got to hang with Doris. That's cool.
I hung out with Doris. It was pretty cool. We connected.
Yeah.
We now text. We DM. It's pretty good.
She's sassy.
But so at some point, I was introduced to Adam, and Adam, who's very humble and was very quiet, and then it was told to me immediately, Adam is the writer of Everyone Loves Tacos. And now, for me in that moment, I went, is there any kids there? I went, holy shit. And it was like, this is a big deal. So when this opportunity came to speak here, to be here tonight, I thought, oh, what an opportunity it would be to sit down with you here. I'm so thankful for you for doing this, and we could have a whole children's book, picture book discussion, because I have questions for Adam, too.
Yeah, they called me at 4 o'clock today. I said, are you busy tonight? And I said, no, let's do it. Let's. So you're an actor.
I mean, some people say that. Others would disagree.
Interesting. Well, so you've made a bunch of books for kids now. This is your 4th book.
Yeah. I feel very fortunate. We wrote 3 children's books. Basically, they came up during the pandemic. I don't know if you guys remember that period of time.
Kind of blocking out a little.
My daughter was, I think, at the time a 4th grader, and she was in the middle of her year, and everything shut down.
Yeah.
And that was on a Friday. And then on Monday, I was at home with her with a curriculum and expected to be a teacher. And so we started posting these pictures on Instagram, and we got a tremendous response. And it was just meant to sort of reach out to say, I hope everybody's in as bad a place as I am, because this is the worst case scenario. And my daughter felt the same way. And so we got all these teachers were reaching out saying, oh, we miss our students so much, and we felt obligated to then make more and more of these posts. And at some point, I started getting really stressed out about it. But I had a wonderful agent, Albert Lee, who's here tonight, who called me and said, hey, I think this is a book. And I said, a real book? And he goes, no. And he goes, what about a picture book? And I said, well, if I was ever going to do a picture book, it would be called I Don't Want to Read This Book, and it would be all the reasons why somebody doesn't want to read a book, and by the end of the book, the child who doesn't want to read the book will have read a book. And he goes, that's a great idea. Can I pitch it? And I go, yeah, have fun. And then the next day I thought, oh, well, that was a great idea. It's a shame no one's ever going to make that.
Yeah.
And then Albert called me 2 days later and was like, Penguin wants to do it. And I thought, oh my God. And I started to,
if anybody's watching from SCBWI right now, I apologize on behalf of Mr.
But I started to write it, and I realized, oh, wow, this is so connected to the experience I had as a young man trying to read and a young student as a reluctant reader. And it just focused on or called out all the fears I had around reading and around learning. And so we wrote that book. I wrote that book so quickly because it was so present and so available to me, that story. And then we had more of the story to tell, and that filtered into this book is not a present. And then we had always talked about doing I don't want to read this book aloud, which is pretty self-explanatory. And at that point, we had sort of finished. We felt like that series, the learning series, the reading series, we sort of said everything that we wanted to say with those books. And the experience has been great with them because, I think in the beginning, we would go to like the LA Times Book Festival, or we would go to these book events, and people would be like, Schmidt! And you're like, I get it, I totally get it. I'm so excited about the book, and I love that we're sort of bridging this gap, but let's find an area. But they've been out for a while now, and now that we're on this book, and even we were in LA last time, and even where I saw you at the National Book Festival, the amount of teachers who have found these books and the amount of classrooms they've found themselves in, and we were at Aloud this year, which is the American Libraries Association, and getting to see these books used as tools and listening to teachers and my favorite thing I hear from teachers when they pick up the other books are like, I know the exact student for this book.
Right.
Oh, I know exactly who who the child that needs this book is.
Because it sounds like you were that kid.
Oh my God, I still can't read. It's.
You might want to start with this right here.
They asked me to read this aloud, and I can't.
Look at this. This is a real book. Came out today.
I know.
So you didn't like books as a kid, but now you are making books for kids. How does that feel?
It's shocking. Sitting with Doris Kearns Goodwin is not somewhere I expected to be in my life. But yeah, so we finished those books, and that led us to this book, which, the first three, I think, really centered on the fears that I had and that kids have with reading. And then we wanted to expand that and look at, fears in general.
You're a fearful person, would you say?
I'm scared right now.
It's just the subway. That's why the stage is shaking. No one's coming to get it.
But I don't believe you. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I think fear is something that I would assume most people deal with, but I think it's something
Scary times.
Yeah, I think it's scary, but it's always scary times for me. But yeah, I think fear is something that I have always woke up with in the morning, but there's not a lot of children's books for waking up in the morning. It's not like the ideal time for a child to read.
It's usually a bit of a rush in the morning.
Yeah, so we thought maybe we'll make it a bedtime story.
Yeah.
But I usually work my way backwards. I wake up in terror, and then for the rest of the day, it's like, how do we sort of like...
From dead sleep is...
Well, you wake up in the morning, you're like this, oh no, not again.
What's the impending doom that you feel in that?
Hold on,
in that
just so
moment?
they don't hear all of it, Adam.
All of it.
But no, it's like, but through time, you realize what that really is. For me, at least, is what my perspective on those things are, and what my perspective on the world is, and finding tools and finding a way to sort of openly discuss it. And find a new relationship with it.
It's a primal emotion. It's a necessary response to certain...
Yeah, and I think that's really what we tried to do with this book. The book is dedicated to a friend of mine, Leslie Jordan, who I think a lot of you knew, or he became very famous during the pandemic. He went on Instagram, and he was like the little Southern man who'd be like, how y'all doing, if you didn't know who he was. But he was a very close friend of mine and an actor as well. And we would have conversations a lot about fear and what it meant. And he introduced me to an exercise where he would name all his fears. We'd write them down, and then he'd read them aloud. And his lists were always hilarious. It was like, paper clips and pocket knives, straight man, and the point of writing all that out would be then to say those things out loud to somebody else. At which point, he would then ask himself, well, which of these things that I just said out loud that I'm so scared of are in front of me right now in this moment? And usually
there's you with a pocket knife.
Yeah, apparently he didn't consider me a straight man, which I always took as a compliment.
It's a spectrum, so you're not putting people in buckets here. It's not.
But so But then, the question would be like, well, what are those? Which of those things are in front of you in this moment? And usually the answer was none of them.
Yeah.
And so the question would then be, well, then why am I carrying these things around with me? And if we apply that to going to sleep for a child, all the things that they're scared of, if a child is able to articulate those things, or at least get close to just saying, you know what I'm scared of, then maybe they can look at it, build a different relationship with it, and understand that it's not there in the moment, and then do what they need to do in that moment, which is simply go to sleep. And so that sort of is the hope with this book.
Yeah, I mean, but books have a very intimate relationship with bedtime rituals in the life of a child.
Yes, I can imagine. I mean, tell me a little bit about your books.
I don't know anything about it. I
Stop.
Look how relaxed I am. I have no
But
children.
I love how your books, there's such a different experience, I think, at night, especially with a book like Dragons Love Tacos or The Truth About the Couch.
Yeah, I mean, I've been told many times that my books are bad for bedtime.
Why
I take as a compliment.
Why is that?
Well, they kind of rile the kids up a little bit. And they tend to rile the parents up, too, which is, I think that's part of the fun. I think that's part of the reason that so many actors are drawn to writing picture books is because they really are like little scripts, little plays.
I had a friend of mine who said, when I was writing the first book, he goes, well, will I be able to perform it?
Yeah.
And
it's a performance.
I said, yes, this is a performance piece for sure, Nick. You're going to really have a good time. He goes, because he's not an actor, but I would imagine if he was an actor, he'd be terrible.
Oh, okay.
And
sorry if Nick is, well, this is streaming, right? He might be.
He's fine. Look, I think, I'm sorry, Nick. I don't know that we've ever had this conversation, but I just don't think that acting is in your future, and I think whatever performance, his kids are grown, he's not reading these anymore.
Yeah,
it's fine.
He's fine.
But yeah, they're fun, exciting performance pieces, and what I love about your book so much is I love a list.
Yeah.
I love a list.
Good list is.
And in the newest book, The Truth About the Couch, there's a list of all the different types of sofas. It is one of the most satisfying things to read.
Put that on the back cover.
That wasn't even a question. I thought I was going to go to a question, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just like a.
Well, you were saying
that
you feel it as a performance to read a book. What were some of the books that you liked to perform for your kids when you were reading? Well, you have a younger son that's is he still picture book age? He's a little older than that.
Yeah, no, he's definitely. I mean, he's just now really embraced reading. Thank God.
You weren't modeling that behavior for him. It doesn't sound like.
No, it was touch and go for a minute, and it was like, that moment where it like clicks.
What was it that got him? Was it Dogman?
No, he liked Dogman. He was into Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Oh yeah.
We really liked Diary of a Wimpy Kid. But the books that I really enjoyed, those are the books he's now reading and embracing in that way. But I think the picture books that we have fun with and that I get to perform in the room, the really good ones, Dragons Love Tacos, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's a fun one because you get to make noises with it that aren't necessarily written out in the book.
What do they call that in the subtext? Right?
Improvs.
Improvs?
You get to just improv.
Yeah.
But I love that one. The Day That the Crayons Quit is a great book. It's a great book because you really get to explore as the different crayons,
characters,
and give them different
They
personalities.
each have a monologue, basically.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And then
do you ever get up from the bed? Is it like
I do accents. I do all sorts of stuff.
You're uniquely suited to really knock it out of the park.
Oh my God! How I haven't been nominated is unbelievable. The book with no
talk
pictures.
To your kid. He's not voting.
But yeah, I love those books. The books that you can really have fun with and that are big and are animated. That was really the point of the first three. I really wanted the first three books to be that way too. More specifically so that a teacher could get up and have that experience in a classroom and perform those books that have ideas in them that seem against what a teacher would be saying.
Right.
You know, I don't want to read this book. You know, these words are too big and paragraphs are not something I ever want to read. They're too long and these things. And so that potentially as a librarian or a teacher is expressing those ideas in a big way in front of a classroom, that the kid who's sitting in the back who's like this, I don't understand any of this, is like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, they've got a kindred spirit in the author of the book.
Yeah, at least, well, the potentially, like, the person in authority in the room is expressing the ideas that they feel that they're feeling and don't think that they have the allowance to express in the room.
Yeah, and you get to meet those teachers, those librarians. You went to the ALA, you went to the National Book Festival. Is it different than a press junket or like a Comic-Con or something? Is it different than meeting TV fans?
It's totally different. The vibe is no one's in costume, or very few people are in costume. You know, a lot of New Girl fans will run up to you, like it feels like they've just binged all, 150 episodes in a weekend, and they're like this, please, it's you guys really live together, right? And you're like, no, we don't live together.
Yeah, it's a little kinder, a little gentler. When,
oh my God, it's like, I just want to let you know that I'm a special needs teacher, and I'm like this. This is I just want to talk to you. These are the most meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
And the fact that these books are being utilized in a way that to some is really helping people is unthinkable that you're in this position, and I feel so incredibly grateful.
It's a special honor to be part of that intimate part of a person's day.
Yeah, totally.
Because this thing goes out into the world and has its own life without you.
Exactly. I mean, what are some of the things that people have said to you about your books that have stuck with you?
Oh, it's not. It's just the way that people kind of take it on as their own.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different with the TV show, right? People come and they yell Schmidt. Like Schmidt doesn't exist without you. You are Schmidt. Your face is Schmidt.
That's right. Let's go.
They couldn't have cast it any better. But this book, like, somebody might not know who you are, and they read this book every day. And that's happened to me 1,000 times. I've been sitting next to somebody at breakfast, and they're reading the book. I've been walking behind a kid who's telling their parent about those darn squirrels, and I'm just walking behind listening to her explain the plot of the book. They just go out there, and they don't know who I am at all. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful kind of way to put yourself into the world, because you're not responsible personally for people's enjoyment of the thing.
Yeah, totally. There's a selflessness to it, and a just sort of I'm giving this to.
It's bizarre, and I know other people have said it, but like once they're out there, it almost feels like I had nothing to do with it.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Do you ever go up to those kids or someone that you hear saying and say, "Hey guys, that was me"?
Never. No. In
Never,
fact,
not once.
I almost
Your
go,
wife's here, I'll ask her.
I go to the opposite extreme. Like if I have a friend will text me a picture and be like, "They have your book at this airport in Milwaukee," and I'm like, "Sign the book. Tell them you're me and sign the book. Compliment the store. Tell them how great the store looks, and put the book in the front. Sign the book. Put the book." Yeah. It's. I've never been asked for ID when I say I wrote the book, because I will do that. If you go to the airport, you've probably been in a bar and like the show comes on in the bar.
I'm sure I've walked by and seen.
Or like it's
you go to like the dry cleaner and like the neighborhood's on. You're like this. Oh, right on.
And you're like, oh, that's me, right? That's me. The equivalent, the low-level equivalent for an author is you're in the airport, and you're walking to your gate, and then you're like, that is the greatest feeling in the world. And you always got to go and say, hey, I wrote this book. Can I sign the book for you? Because then they can't send it back to the publisher. If you sign it. So. Has
anyone who ever like owns a store go like this? No, you cannot sign the book. How do I know that
Once. Yeah. I think they were getting pranked by Improv Everywhere or something for a while. And people would
No,
come in
no,
and be
it's
like,
just them.
yeah. Book people are the nicest people in the world.
Except for Barnes & Noble,
Yeah.
Union Square.
Get them out of there. In fact, if you're ever traveling somewhere, this is just good advice for everyone, but if you're ever traveling in a new town and you haven't been there before, go to the bookstore. Go to the local bookstore. They know all the good places to eat. They know all the good stuff to see, and you can buy some books while you're there. So take that with you.
So you know.
Yeah. So I know you are famous for New Girl, and you have some devotees that watch the whole thing in the
This is...
yeah. There are probably some in the room, some New Girl fans. Okay. I'm not a super fan, but I do know some super fans. So I asked Ricardo Liniers. I asked his daughters.
His daughters.
His daughters. So
Not
last
Ricardo is one of the most beautiful illustrators on earth, and he illustrated Adam's last book.
We
and
met
it is
together.
Stunning.
We all met 5 days ago in DC. So we were all together, and I was playing
And
it cool.
Ricardo freaked out. And Ricardo had me make a video for his daughters where he decided to do a Schmidt impersonation.
It is definitely worth looking up if you can find it.
And he posted it as if he's proud of it.
Yeah.
A minute in, I said, do you want me to speak on this video, or do you just want to do it? And he just played right through.
Yeah. And the only person that was more embarrassed than Mr. Greenfield is his 3 daughters, who are 15, 13, and 10, I think. And so they were just mortified, and I got to watch their reaction when they saw it for the first time, which was excellent. So to make it up to them, I asked Matilda,
Great.
his 16-year-old, for a question, a New Girl question.
Okay, great.
Okay. So she says, in season 2, episode 1, Robbie tells Schmidt he's never left California, but when he's hiking with Jess in season 6, episode 14, it's revealed that they met as kids at a family reunion in Massachusetts. So, and keep in mind this is from a 15-year-old girl, which cast member has the best personal smell?
Oh my God, it's the easiest. That's the easiest question.
Okay.
Damon Wayans Jr. by far.
Yeah?
Damon puts on some sort of, by the way, Damon and I are doing some like Hot One show.
Oh my
'Cause they
gosh,
wanted to.
together?
Yeah. Which is gonna be, we might shut the thing
Have you
down.
watched the show before?
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But
Oh
we
my.
will probably talk about his odor,
Okay.
which is, he would put on some strawberry sort of, we don't even know it, but every time he walked, he was so much of it. It would smell like strawberry, and he would walk in and be like, ooh, Damon, you smell like strawberries today.
He would comment on his own smell.
Yeah, and he would just walk in. No, we would.
Oh,
we,
you would comment,
although,
yeah.
by the way, he probably would comment on his own
Okay,
smell.
yeah.
But for sure, Matilda should know that it's Damon Wayans Jr.
Damon Wayans Jr. Okay.
Yes.
Best strawberry smell.
Yes.
There's certain people, it feels like they break the whole bottle over their head every morning and they leave the house just with like the whole thing.
That's Damon for sure.
Okay. So this book is about fears, and many of the fears are somewhat irrational fears. I don't want to spoil it. We're going to read the book. We are going to read the book in a minute. But
Yeah.
Do you have any like legit irrational fears, things that you know are like, I don't know, pocket knives could be scary in a certain situation, but what was the other one? Jeans? Do you have any fears like they're actually not scary things, but not joking, they do freak you out a little bit?
I mean, you wouldn't believe it. It's honestly almost everything. The one that comes to mind is sometimes, and this got really bad after, after the pandemic and things started to open up. I had trouble knowing how to get dressed, and I would just look at the clothes in my closet, and I'd go like this. I just don't get it.
Like, you didn't know what kind of outfit to put together, or like you were putting one pant leg on the arm?
I just was like, how are pants supposed to fit? what does any of this mean? And I would like have these, and I would just sit in the class, and my wife Tess would be like this. We have to go, and I go, I can't. I can't. I don't know. I just don't know.
Going out was kind of hard after the pandemic.
It still is.
Yeah?
Yes, all of it. Yeah, I mean, there is 1.5 million different fears, things that I'm still discovering to this day that hit me out of nowhere, where you're like this, am I scared right now? And again, it's the tools that you find in life to try to work yourself back from those moments and to find some sort of perspective on the moment that gives you some peace and perspective that, my perspective in those moments is not proportionate to what the reality actually is.
So you have to pretend that you're not scared.
I gotta, well, I don't know that I have to pretend that I'm not scared. I think I have to acknowledge it, sometimes be able to laugh at it, and sort of work myself back from there.
Is that how you got into performance, or?
Well, I can tell you there's certainly many days on a set where I'll walk into a set and I'll be like this, ooh, nervous today.
Really, after all this time?
Yeah, or like, oh my God, totally. Especially if I'm starting a new job, you'll do like a first take in a scene, and you'll come in, you're like, I have a lot of ideas, and then none of them work, and you sort of are working yourself back from that point, and you go like this, okay, well now I'm sufficiently scared. Let's find a different perspective on what's happening. Let's maybe laugh about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's take all the ego out of it. And then let's approach it in a different way.
It's tricky to be performing in a situation where you're isolated.
It's tricky to be performing, period.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky to be performing with a bunch of professionals watching, but if you go up in front of a bunch of kids, there's no filter of whether it's working or not. You know.
No. Yes, like the kids are unforgiving when you're reading a book, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's tough when you learn that something that you thought was funny is not funny to a kid.
Or that like something doesn't work. What does that mean? And you're like, oh my God, what a good question.
Yeah. You're like, why would you go to sleep?
Yeah, it's so mad. With the reading books, you get it like every once in a while. I was like, so when you say that, I can tell your tone is so aggressive right now.
A trick I use is because they usually give you a wireless microphone. If you walk amongst them, it kind of diffuses the us versus them.
Oh yeah, I like to make it a conversation. Yeah. And then if you start it off as a conversation, then later on when it gets aggressive, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think you'll come to relish the chaos and aggression. Like the best part.
I agree.
Is when they just open the floor and you don't know what they're going to say.
I totally agree.
Have you gotten any good questions on the road? You've done 3 tours now?
Yeah, we've taken the reading books to a lot of different schools.
You're out there shaping the young minds of America.
I'm sorry. But yeah, that's been exciting. And we'll start all those off with, look, this is a very interactive book. If you see words and things that you want to participate and yell out and try to read for yourself, go for it. And it becomes it becomes chaotic in a beautiful way.
But also like teachers now probably were watching New Girl like right when it was on. They're like right in the sweet spot. When you walk into their school, it must be mind-blowing.
Maybe. I mean, most teachers, though, I got to say, when you're in that environment with them, they might off to the side be like, we're really big fans of the show. But in that environment, I haven't yet to meet the teacher that has drifted away from what their primary purpose is in that situation.
Have you been to Texas?
No.
TLA. That'll be fun for you. Put them up for the speed dating event where they do around that would be fun. It is the best part is that you get to go out and see what they think. Yeah. You get to see them go nuts when you say, I don't want to read this book, and you read all the different things out, and there's not a lot of energy that matches 300 kids in a gym. Yeah, not only that, we've done a couple events too where we've got to go into some classrooms and to see kids who are just like my son's there now, where they're reading
it's not totally fluid. They're right on the precipice of being like a strong reader, and them taking the book. I had this experience with This Book Is Not a Present, and watching a kid like excitedly read the book, excitedly try to read the book, and fumble through it and mess up, but really love the ideas that they're reading and to push through and to keep going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me has been so rewarding. Watching those kids embrace it in that way, and watching them like fight through the book, but with joy. It's just there's nothing better.
Yeah. I mean, these things are magical.
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
It's an inanimate object. We've been using this technology for like 500 years, and it still works just fine. No software updates, doesn't run out of batteries. It's the best way to explore the world without leaving your hometown.
Yeah, and I think it also is the best way to start a conversation with your kids. That to me has been.
I don't want to be too.
That to me is like really, I think the great purpose of a good children's book, which is you read it with your kids and potentially it starts a conversation.
Yeah.
And where that conversation goes, because it's hard. So, I mean, I feel like I'm as close with my son as I ever could be with anybody, but every once in a while, he doesn't want to open up. He wants to let me know that everything's okay. And it's nice to have a tool that maybe opens up that conversation and that dialogue that is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's a bonding opportunity.
Yeah.
Because if the physical necessity is that you need to sit next to somebody to read a picture book. Mm-hmm. And so they snuggle in, they get the arm around, they get there, and they're pointing the pictures together. It's a very special ritual that happens with a picture book.
I agree. It's both this and then this. And they're two different things, but with a picture book where there's a visual aspect to it, and they're being hit with what they're listening to and seeing, it really is like I find it so rewarding and so magical.
A real book.
Yeah, man.
Would you like to read it to us?
I would. Should we do the questions first, or should we want to read it?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. You want to end with the book? End with the reading?
What do you guys think? Reading first or questions? Questions, okay, questions.
They're all hoping to get their question picked, of course. They're biased.
I was like, I got scared in that moment. I was like, what if it goes half and half?
We got some kids in the audience or some doctors? I'm not sure. We're going to find out.
Probably doctors. That's my audience.
Yeah. Did you ever get writer's block? This is from Salone, 12 years old, smiley face. Did you ever get writer's block while writing the book?
Ooh, really good question. I don't think I got writer's block while writing the book, but I find that, with a children's book, there are transitions and little moments, and you're working with, like, not much real estate, so you really want to get each word right, each page turn right, and you kind of know when it's off, and you might sit on, like, a word or a phrase for much longer than you can ever imagine. So I think you just sort of sit with it for a little bit, and I've gotten really comfortable in that spot.
What is your kind of setup? What is your process of writing? People love to hear about, like, your place, your time,
My schedule is so nuts with work and kids and everything that it's sort of.
Are you an in the trailer writer?
I'm sort of wherever I am writer.
Notebook, phone, computer?
I usually write computer. What about you?
Mine starts handwritten and then goes into the.
Do you have a pen? Do you have a pen to use?
I have currently I have a Norwegian Cruise Line clicky pen, which is odd because I've never been on a cruise, so I don't know where this pen came from. But okay, pre-K teacher here, no name, remaining anonymous, but there is a heart and a smiley face. They don't get the awe like the kid? Okay. Any advice I can give my new pre-K families that start Thursday regarding their child having first day jitters/anxiety at bedtime tomorrow? Now you get the awe. Okay.
Let's get them some books.
Yeah.
So they start school tomorrow?
Yeah, is that right? School's pre-K? Thursday.
So they start
So
school,
tomorrow they'll have the jitters, tomorrow night.
Yes, yes. I would say the best thing is to bring those jitters into the classroom on the first day. Don't ignore them, but don't ignore them and don't pretend that they're not there. I think embracing those jitters and allowing everyone to experience them together would probably make each individual not feel alone with those jitters. And then as a classroom, they could embrace that feeling together. And I think probably by the end of the day, which, I always tell my son this, I'm like, first day, take it easy, take it slow. You're gonna be nervous, it's gonna be, you gotta feel it out. And the next day he's like this, I can't wait to be in school.
That was not me. I was not an excited about school thing. Okay, what were your biggest fears as a kid, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think that's why we wrote the book, and why I would have loved a book like this. I don't necessarily know what my biggest fears were as a kid, and I think they were all so deep down and like hidden and prevented me from, a lot of things, and prevented me from being present a lot of the time because I was scared of so much.
But you have to put yourself out there so much as an actor. I'm surprised to hear that you...
I became an actor much later.
Oh, that was later?
I think probably, yeah.
What did you do first?
What did I do first?
Like, what were you doing before you became an actor?
Not a lot.
Were you trying to be an actor but not being an actor?
I was trying, but I don't know.
Okay.
We're not sure. Neither my parents were very concerned.
What was the moment they stopped being concerned? Has it happened yet?
I think my dad. They're still concerned.
Okay. Moving along. Would you ever write a children's book with Jake Johnson?
No.
Next question. This is from
We
Teddy.
just planned a trip together to Rhode Island, and it was just the planning of it was such a nightmare.
Sounds like you may be living a picture book with Jake Johnson on this trip to Rhode Island.
We're living in something, man. It was insane. I can't even get into it. That's another night at the 92Y.
Okay. We'll talk about your parents and Jake Johnson looking at mansions in Rhode Island. This is from Teddy, Melanie, and Lily, who say hi, first of all.
What's up, Teddy?
What is your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Great question. Teddy, what's yours?
Let's go with I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. On the new album.
Whoa, off the new album. I'm gonna go New Year's Day. Thanks. Don't judge it, Teddy.
Controversial. The artistry of the book is beautiful. What did the process of creating those images look like?
I gotta say this. You go into, I've done so much press today for the book. And you talk about the book, and you're out there talking about the book, and you're selling the book, and you're trying to tell people what the book is about. And so often, the illustrator gets lost in that conversation. And I always feel terrible about it. And I'm sitting here, and we've had this whole conversation, and we've said nothing about James Serafino, who really made this book. So much of the point of this book was to articulate these fears in what we had hoped would be a visually exciting experience for the kid. But we didn't know who we were going to get as an illustrator. We didn't know what it was going to look like. And Jen Klonsky, who's here tonight, sent me a group of illustrators, as you do for a children's book, and you get to see like a portfolio of illustrators, as you know, and it's very exciting because you're like, I think I get to choose now. But I saw all these artists, and I thought Jen was sending a group of, I thought it was a joke. I thought she was like pointing me in a direction. She was like, I'll send a bunch of like whoever's and then James's stuff. And she swears she didn't do this because, and I looked at them and I went, well, it's obviously this guy. And he He did such a beautiful job with this book.
Did you get to see the process at all?
Yeah, you know, you get to see drafts of the illustrations, and I just kept going, it's perfect. And Jen and everybody at Penguin were like, we have notes. And I was like, what notes could you have? And the notes kept coming, and they kept giving notes, and the notes were perfect, and the illustrations just kept getting better and better and better and
Was
better.
anything too scary when you were working on the book? Was there anything?
We talked about that. We really didn't want this to be something that scared kids at night. We wanted everything to feel appropriate.
I mean, tarantulas in the toilet is pretty scary.
Not the way that James draws them. That was Maya's favorite one.
I'm going to check twice tonight. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
So you got to see it. It is like watching somebody bring your imagination into
It's the most rewarding process. It's so exciting.
Honestly, the reason I write picture books is so that I get to collaborate with illustrators.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And it takes a while too. So it's like this enjoyable experience, and then 1 month, 2 months later, you get like an email that goes, "Ooh, the new illustrations have come in," and you go, "Oh."
And then they add color.
I know. Then they have, and everyone is just like, "I cannot wait." And then you have this. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Yeah,
to look at that.
it is really nice. It's really, really nice. So shout out to all the picture book illustrators out there that usually have their name a little lower. Do you have any favorites? Do you have any illustrators you would love to work with someday from your favorite books? Not to put you on the spot.
I mean, not Ricardo.
He'll do it.
I know he will. That's a joke. I'd love to work with you, Ricardo, if you're out there. He's somewhere.
Hey, back off, man.
He's somewhere.
He's spoken for.
He's doing a Schmidt impersonation at the door.
Yeah, he's in Madrid right now, like doing the thing. That's what it looked like. I'm doing an impression of the impression. So, what is your favorite memory of Leslie?
Oh man. Well, I'll very quickly. So Leslie George, he was making all of these. He was doing all these different Instagram posts during the pandemic, and he was doing so many of them. And if you were close to him, you'd go like this. Oh, Leslie, you don't need to post everything. And there was just a ton, every one of them. And I was like, this is not one of your best. And so,
oh no.
And so we'd be like, oh, Leslie posted another, did another thing, did it. And when he passed, I remember, a lot of people who were close to him or loved him, or the people that just were inspired by him, they would post some of his posts. They would repost some of his posts, his old posts. And I noticed that every person posted a different one. There wasn't like one that people went to. And I now look at those, all of them, and I'm so happy that he posted all of these because they still all exist, and you go watch them, and they're just different parts of him. And
That must be weird to have a friend that's passed away, but they kind of live on.
yeah, I mean that's sort of not to get too deep with it or dark with it or whatever it is, but yeah, there's something beautiful about this book, and I was experiencing today where I got to talk a lot about Leslie and promoting it and being on talk shows, and they would show clips and pictures of Leslie on there, and you feel like for at least for a minute like we're not talking about him necessarily in the past tense. We're talking about him as a part of what's happening now.
How did you guys become friends?
We knew each other a little bit, and then we did an episode of Will and Grace together. And it was this wild 2-week episode. That usually it takes a week. This was a wild 2-week episode because Sean Hayes was sick that week and extended. And and Leslie was just like running around. It was the first episode that he was doing of the reboot. And we were both guest stars of it. And he was just spinning around. He goes, you want to come meet my boyfriend? And I was like, sure, Leslie. And he goes, okay, cool. We'll go to Bar Verde. I go, where's Bar Verde? He goes, it's above Nordstrom at the Grove. And so we went to Bar Verde above Nordstrom at the Grove, and we sat there for like 4 hours. And I was like, this I could do always. And we just became friends and never stopped being friends. And He was beautiful. He was one of the great storytellers ever.
Speaking of which, would you like to read your story to us tonight?
I would love to. I just wanted to say thank you again for doing this. This has really been fun. Thank you to everyone who came tonight. This has been such a wonderful experience getting to share this book, and I'm so excited to share it with you right now. Okay. So this is Goodnight Thoughts, written by Max Greenfield and illustrated by James Serafino. All right, whew, now I'm nervous. I'm never going to fall asleep. My brain is too noisy, my thoughts are too jumpy, and every time I close my eyes, I'm afraid of all the scary stuff I see. Sometimes I see myself being chased by giant robot sharks. Other times I can see my toilet bowl overflowing with tarantulas. One time, I even saw the dentist. That one's real. How am I supposed to relax if all I can think about are robot sharks or tarantula toilets or the dentist? This one time I tried to fall asleep and saw the whole entire world pop into a piece of popcorn. That might happen. Another time I thought about my very best friend sailing off to sea on a pirate ship made of toast. And just the other night, as soon as I closed my eyes, I fell off a cloud. But instead of falling down, I flew straight up towards the sun. It was the most scared I've ever been in my whole life because everything got so bright, I couldn't see anything at all. How am I ever going to fall asleep knowing that the world might pop like popcorn, or that my friend might sail away with pirates, or that I might fall from a cloud straight up towards the sun? I wish these thoughts would stop bouncing around inside of my head. Sometimes I try to have happy thoughts. I close my eyes really, really tight and try to imagine a baby panda opening its arms and giving me a hug. Other times I think about a choir of candy-covered donuts all singing my favorite song. And if I really can't fall asleep, if it feels like my brain won't ever calm down, I try to think about all the people who love me, holding hands and wearing every piece of clothing that they own. I try and I try and I try to think of baby pandas and singing donuts and everyone who loves me, but no matter how hard I try, I still can't fall asleep. But then I close my eyes again. I remember that my brain can be noisy and that my thoughts are sometimes jumpy. And then I remember that all that noise and all those thoughts are just in my head. I'm not being eaten by a giant robot shark. My toilet isn't overflowing with tarantulas. And thank goodness, there isn't a dentist in sight. As far as I can tell, the world hasn't popped into a piece of popcorn. My best friend is still here, and I'm not falling from a cloud. Right now, everything is okay. And so am I. Thanks. Good night, thoughts. Good night. Guys, thank you again for coming. I so appreciate it. I think we're going to sign some books afterwards. So hang out.